Bam Adebayo putting up 83 is a little bit like when somebody loses a lot of weight using Ozempic. Like, they lost the weight, but people are like, you didn't do it the right way. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Johnny Montalbano. This is another edition of Moving the Goalpost. You can follow us across social media at MTGPETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Network across social media at ETB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DiMart, Johnny at Montalbano NY. And you can follow, did I say the Empty the Bench Network at ETB Network? I said everything. Okay. You can watch all Empty the Bench shows on youtube.com/ETB Network, and you can listen to Moving the Goalpost wherever you get your podcasts. And make sure to like and subscribe. All right. So we got to talk about the NCAA tournament, the big news of the day. Every March, I have a weird existential crisis because, A, that's my birth month. So I always end up older than I was, and that creates a crisis. The other thing that creates a crisis is, I wish I paid attention to college basketball a little more throughout the year. So I know what the experts are talking about a little more, like in football. I have that type of crisis too. And that's how I feel a little bit right now to some extent. But, I think there's a lot of angles to get to with college basketball, with the tournament and everything. It's not surprising any of the one seeds. We all knew Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Florida would be the one seeds. Even though not all those teams won their tournaments, I think the biggest story with this tournament is St. John's. St. John's got absolutely screwed ending up as the 5 seed. A 3 seed or a 4 seed, I would totally understand. I am totally okay with Arkansas and Purdue kind of moving them back a little bit potentially because they ended up winning their tournament. And I mean, St. John's won their tournament too, but they kind of moved up in a way that St. John's didn't. But I think I expected at least a 4 seed. I expected a 4 seed. But instead, St. John's ended up as a 5 seed in the toughest division. The East is absolutely loaded. And of all the 1 seeds, it looks like Duke is the toughest team. The only issue with Duke that they have, which I'm kind of okay with, is the injuries. But I think that St. John's is way too good to be a 5 seed. I think they got absolutely screwed. Look, I understand that they don't they were expected to be a 3 or a 4 seed before they even won the conference tournament. St. John's just won the Big East and blew out UConn, and UConn's a 2 seed and St. John's is a 5 seed. Now, I'm okay with UConn being ranked ahead of St. John's because they had a better season overall. But why are they that much higher when St. John's just destroyed them? Like, it just happened. It's not like 2 months ago they destroyed them. They just did and just won the tournament, and UConn is 3 seeds ahead of St. John's. Like I don't understand how you can justify that.
Yeah, you can't justify it. I totally agree with you. I mean, if you want to say 3-4, that would be fine. I mean, one of the things you look at is, like you just said, the fact that they played each other and St. John's destroyed them. Doesn't always work like that when it comes to college hoops, though, the head-to-head battles like we talk about, like with college football or other sports. But, that – and not only just that, how about the fact that they got to go out west and play? In the early going, like they're playing out in San Diego, while UConn plays in Philly to start, and there's actually quite a few instances throughout this whole first and second round, and even later on in the tournament, possibly of even some home court advantages for some of these schools, which is really what they try and eliminate a lot of when it comes to the tournament.
Well, they didn't do that this year.
Not at all. I mean, we're going to talk about it here because I actually, for the first time in a couple of years, I don't know if you're watching on YouTube right now. Let's see if I can put that up to the screen. I actually did fill out a bracket for the first time in quite some time. But one of the things I did take into consideration when I filled out the bracket this year was the possibility of a lot of some of these schools playing in cities very close to them, if not in their actual home city. Like Houston could possibly in later rounds in the South region. I'm just trying to look what else here because I made a lot of notes. Missouri playing in St. Louis, possibly playing in St. Louis in the early going as a possible upset in the West. But yeah, just talking about St. John's here because that is really one of the big stories of this tournament, not only just from a local side, but even from a national side too, is their ranking, their seed in the East, and the fact that they are playing in a region with not only well-known universities, but Hall of Fame coaches too.
Yeah, that's what everybody's saying. Yeah,
and I think Rick Pitino. I mean, you want to talk about a move that really brought back a school from out of nowhere. It was Rick Pitino and St. John's. I mean, St. John's had been in the doldrums for a long, long time, and once they got Pitino, I mean, it turned their university around to the point now where they've been where they're a dangerous threat. And I got to tell you, I'll be honest with you, Nick, making this thing out, I actually think St. John's can go pretty deep in the East. And I say that only because Duke, even though the number one overall seed, those injuries that they have to those players, and now Duke's deep, don't get me wrong, but the injuries that they've got are very, very significant. It's something I think that is going to – I think they'll get by in the early going, but later on, when you get to like the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, I think that is a problem. I think they actually, of the four number one seeds, Duke, Florida, Arizona, and Michigan, I think they're the most vulnerable. Even though they're the number one overall seed, I think they are the most vulnerable of any of the one seeds in the tournament. I really do.
Yeah, because they're because they're injured. They have a lot of injuries. I think that Arizona is one team where they're probably in the easiest division in the bracket, and they're not banged up like Duke and Michigan.
I totally agree. I think Arizona is the most favorable of the four regions, and I think they are the most stable of the four number one seeds. I do totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, and look, throughout this whole thing, like the thing with, and you were talking about Rick Pitino bringing back St. John's, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. They did it to each other. I'm old enough to remember watching old St. John's games we've had one or two good years with with Steve Lavin. We had, or at least one, where we made the tournament with you remember that squad with Raishi Jordan and D'Angelo Harrison and Chris Obekba. Raishi Jordan ended up going to prison for attempted murder. Actually, he's good at basketball but bad at murder.
I remember that.
Yeah. So I don't. But you're right. He totally brought back the program. But it's a double-edged sword because St. John, it's the other way around too, which is also St. John's helped bring Rick Pitino back from obscurity because of the whole like prostitute scandal at Louisville and the fact that like he had to. I mean, look, I'm not saying that what happened at Louisville was right or that Rick Pitino knew nothing about it because I don't really believe that. But I mean, the fact that he had to go away longer for that than Chris Beard did for domestic violence. I mean, come on. I thought it was completely ridiculous. Like Rick Pitino, he had to go to Europe. He had to go and coach Greece coach in Greece for a couple of years and then go to Iona and then St. John's. Whereas like Chris Beard was in trouble for domestic violence and he just went to a different college. Like now he's just at Ole Miss. Like I thought it was ridiculous how much Rick Pitino had to just go into exile for really what wasn't that bad. What he did at Louisville. And
fair.
But yeah, St. John's is just brought him is help. Well, he brought St. John's back from obscurity, and college basketball in New York is relevant again. And St. John's did the same thing for Rick Pitino. And yeah, I like the point that you brought up. In this bracket, it's all Hall of Fame there's a bunch of great head coaches just in this side of the bracket. It's the toughest bracket. It's also the toughest, in my view, in some ways, the toughest to predict because Duke throughout the season has been the best team. Like if you were to put all the if you're gonna rank all the teams based on what they've done, Duke is the best one. Duke has been the best, but they also are a little banged up. And that can be used to St. John's advantage. I think that because of Duke's injuries, St. John's can match up well against Duke. The team I'm worried about a little bit is Kansas as the second round game. St. John's should not be playing Kansas in the second round. I think that's completely ridiculous. That's really the biggest reason that they got screwed. And look, Kansas, the reason Kansas scares me is because they're a team that is very dependent on one player, Darren Peterson, who is the best player in the country. And the problem with those teams is that they're very hit or miss. It scares me as a St. John's fan, but it should scare you as a Kansas fan too, which is that, like, depending on how well he plays, Kansas can play wildly different just based on that. Like, it could get to the point where they're unbeatable or they're really just an average team based on how well he plays, which is what scares me a little bit with St. John's. But I do think St. John's can beat Duke, even though Duke's better. I do think St. John's can still beat them. St. John's is a very physical team. I think they can wear teams down a lot. They rebound very well. And that's really just how the team is built. And that can be difficult for a lot of teams to beat.
Yeah. And I would tell you this, though, that 4-13 matchup, Kansas and Cal Baptist, I actually think Cal Baptist will make that a game. I actually was almost even thinking about taking them. See, now you obviously do unnecessary wagers as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other things, too, when you want to talk about this overall tournament is you take out seeds just for a second and you go by spreads in some of these games. Like, I don't know if you ever would take a number one team. Like, I don't know if you would take a number one team in this tournament to cover a number, and no matter who they're playing, whether that's Duke against Siena, whether that's Arizona against Long Island, whether that's Michigan, who will take on either Howard or UMBC. The first 4 games are happening as we're doing the show this week. And then Florida against Lee or PYAMU. That'd be Prairie View. And how about UMBC? If they would win, can they do it again as a 16 seed, knocking off the number one seed like they did against Virginia, when they were the first team to do it? That would be cool to watch. See if UMBC can beats Howard in their first 4 game. That would be something cool to watch. But yeah, so that's another angle to it too. And I only say that because I almost would take Cal Baptist to cover. I don't have the number in front of me right now.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the spreads yet. Actually, I will tonight which, by the way, when I prepare for the show, which is really nice that now that the spreads are coming out a few days before, I actually have some time to prep for unnecessary wagers rather than doing it like right before we go live. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it is a little bit tempting. Like I saw it on a site that if you wanted to take odds about a team not winning versus winning, it's not great. I mean, it's like minus 9,900 or 900 or something, like 9,900. But hey, it's still something. But yeah, so obviously Kansas has Bill Self, again, well-known coach. UConn in that region, Danny Hurley. Again, so that's what we're talking about overall. But I think it will be St. John's and Kansas in the second round. But I think Cal Baptist makes it a game against Kansas because I think they actually could match up kind of well. I think at the end of the day, I think the Jayhawks will prevail. But I actually think that might be a game you have to watch and see how close it's going to get.
Yeah. So yes. I'm looking at the spread right now. So Duke is favored by 28.5 over Siena. That's a pretty big one. Arkansas minus 15.5 over Hawaii, and Michigan State minus 16.5 over North Dakota State. So I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. I don't even know if I'm even really going to pick those games. I'd rather pick closer games rather than huge spreads.
Well, I will tell you, I mean, because I have 4, 5, I have at least 7 upsets, if you want to say that they're upsets, in the first round.
Yeah.
Overall. So that would be something to look at. Now, I will tell you, since we're in the East, and that's probably the best region of the 4, and I felt like this was like this a few years back, and I think UConn was in the same situation a few years back, when there was one region that had like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams that you can make the case could have been a Final Four team in almost any other region. But in the East, I'm looking at UCLA and UCF, the 7-10 matchup, and I like UCF actually to get by the Bruins in that one to face UConn in the second round. So just real quick, if you want, since we're doing this in the East, I'm going to take Duke over Siena. I got Ohio State over TCU. I am going to take St. John's over Northern Iowa. Kansas over Cal Baptist. This one's a little nerve-wracking to me, but I do like Louisville to get past South Florida. Michigan State over North Dakota State. My one upset is the 7-10 UCF, the 10 over UCLA, and then UConn to get past Furman there in the first round out in the East.
Yeah, I haven't really decided exactly what my bracket's going to be just yet, because I just haven't made it yet. But you look at a team like Alabama, who's a 4 seed, and St. John's, who's a 5 seed, and Alabama is ranked lower than them in the NET rankings. Wait, do we call it NET or net? Call it either one.
It's
net. Okay, the net rankings. And they're ranked lower in the KenPom rankings, and they have a worse record, and they haven't really been playing all that well this month. I mean, the last 3 games, Alabama lost to Georgia and lost to Ole Miss. St. John's, in the past month or so, St. John's, outside of that one game against UConn where they got embarrassed, which they since made up for by embarrassing UConn, they've played pretty well, I would say, for the most part. They didn't play great against Georgetown or Seton Hall necessarily, but they were mostly winning these games, whereas Alabama, they lost 2 of their last 3, and they weren't exactly against the best teams in the SEC. So I don't know. I don't think Alabama should be ranked 4 and St. John's should be ranked 5. I think, look, I understand that they don't care, that the committee doesn't care that much about conference championships, and rightfully so. They don't really mean that much. They care a lot more in football. But I also feel like even if you were to give all of these teams seedings and rankings before the conference championship game even happened, I mean, it seems ridiculous for St. John's to be ranked a 5 seed, let alone after they win the championship and after Alabama loses to Ole Miss. Like, I think that's completely ridiculous. And look, Bruce Pearl's politicking didn't work very well. And look, I'm a fan of Bruce Pearl. I wish he was still coaching Auburn, because he turned Auburn into really like Auburn is now more of a basketball school than a football school, in the past couple of years. But Bruce Pearl has made himself so unlikable lately, in the sense that he gives the team to his son, which I'm fine with. I don't take issue with him doing that. But to give the team to your son and then go on TV and then start politicking on behalf of Auburn that they should be in the tournament, to me, that's a little off-putting, especially when Auburn, look, I would totally understand if Auburn was one of the better, if Auburn was in an SEC last year, where almost every team was good enough to be in the tournament. But Auburn went 7. They had a losing record. They went 7-11 in the SEC. Now, in fairness, they played a really tough schedule, but it also includes some really bad losses too. They lost to a lousy Ole Miss team. They lost to Mississippi State. It's not like they were they have a lot of bad losses too. It's not like they beat every single one of the games that they lost was against really good teams. To me, it just seems so ridiculous to me.
It is. And unfortunately, we've been seeing this a lot with former coaches that do this and then try and defend or stick up for their old school. That's why, and not to change sports, but and to prove this point, when Nick Saban went to College Game Day, I mean, he fit in so well. And Nick Saban does not have a bias for Alabama. If you are watching him on game day a lot in the past couple of years, he's criticized them. He will pick other schools outside of Alabama when they're playing them. So there's no bias. I get, look, you want to praise your former school your former team that you were coaching for. But I mean, you also have to be realistic too. I mean, the other big thing too is Miami of Ohio, who's playing in the first 4 game as we do the show against SMU. You know, there was always a debate about would you leave Miami of Ohio out, despite the fact they went undefeated in the regular season. Their lone loss was in the first round of their conference tournament. But they eventually got in. Now, will they make it? Will they still be alive as we're doing the show? I mean, that's to be seen. Now, they do win. They would face. Let's see. I'm just trying to pull it up here. They would be they would play Tennessee in the first round.
I think Tennessee. Look, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think Tennessee would be favored by
and I have Tennessee winning no matter who if it's SMU or Miami of Ohio.
Tennessee is Tennessee's a really tough team,
and they're six seed too.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting too. But I mean, they are 22-11.
Yeah, Tennessee as a 6 seed.
But they are 22-11. This hasn't really been the same Tennessee team. And that's the one thing also, if you want to go back to the East for a second, I don't think this has been the same UConn team with Danny Hurley this year as in years past as well. But let me just go through the rest through the other 3 regions real quick, because I do have a couple of upsets. I want to go to the South for a second here. And actually, I have McNeese, the 12 seed, beating Vanderbilt, the 5. And the other one too, this is one where you look at the seeds and you have to throw seeds out the window. 6 seed North Carolina against VCU. If you look at the spread in that game, I think North Carolina is, a 1.5 to 2.5 point favorite in the 6-11. That is telling you something. Carolina's banged up. Their star Caleb Wilson is out. That is a massive deal. I love VCU to get past them. I really do. Carolina is not the same team without Wilson, and I think VCU will take advantage of that and get past them there. And I also like A&M against St. Mary's, the 7-10 matchup. So I'm looking at 3 double-digit seeds in the South to get into the second round over the weekend. So that's McNeese, the 12 over the 5. I love VCU over North Carolina, the 6-11, and A&M over St. Mary's. The one thing to watch in that South thing too, Nick D, is Houston, the 2 seed. Now, if you get into the Elite 8, you know where the Elite 8 is going to be held?
Where?
In Houston.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're playing. The Elite 8's being played in Houston.
So that's why it's something to watch there. And that is why, I mean, not to give this away, but I guess I will. I have Houston getting into the Final 4.
All right.
So
all right.
That's because of that.
Like I said, I haven't done mine yet.
I'll do mine, and you can do yours on this unnecessary wagers. Go check that out, folks. That's dropping as well. But since I won't be on for the rest of the week,
which is really just a spinoff of this podcast. I'm like I'm like the Norman Lear of podcasters. I just love doing spinoffs.
I love it. And then I'll give you the other 2, and then we can move on here. Let's go out to the West for a second. I love Arizona over Long Island. I mean, I think Arizona, as I said, is the most stable, the 4 number 1 seeds, and I think they're in the most favorable region of the 4. Let's see, what else do I have here? How about if you want me to put a football term, Wisconsin and High Point, the 5-12. I love that game to get loose. So is Arkansas and Hawaii. I think that game will get loose. I think that the totals in those games are like at 160.5. So watch for those 2 games to get loose. If you love high scoring college basketball, those will be for you. Here's another one though too. You want to talk about home court almost. Love Missouri over Miami in the 7-10 matchup. Why? Because that game's in St. Louis. The first and second rounds are in St. Louis. I love Missouri, and I think they will get past the opening weekend. They'll win the 7-10. And I think they will get out of the opening weekend because they are home. I think home court does kind of mean something in the tournament. And then finally in the Midwest, I love Akron over Texas Tech, the 5-12 there. That's one I'm going to go for. And Santa Clara, who we haven't really talked about in college hoops, and Steve Nash was there. I love Santa Clara to get past Kentucky in the 7-10. So those are my 7 upsets in the opening round. And then let's just see, do I have any other points? Well, I'll just get you straight to my final 4. I have Houston in the South. I have Alabama in the Midwest. I have Arizona in the West. And the reason why I saved the East for last, Nick D, I think St. John's is going to get to the Final Four.
Look, I would be absolutely thrilled if that happens. Look, one thing that I think Rick Pitino can do, or all great college coaches do, is they create they're downing us complex. They give that to their players and really play on that, which great coaches do all the time. It especially works in college. I think if all things go their way, I think they absolutely can make it to the Final Four. I think they're good enough to make the Final Four. I think they're also good enough. They're also bad enough to lose in the second round. Like I think it can go either way. Now, if that were to happen, if they were to make the Final Four, based on how their season started and how bad they were when the season started, and then making the Final Four, that would be pretty amazing, because it really looked like St. John's was taking a step back this year. It really did from last year. I mean, they brought in Ian Jackson from North Carolina. He's mostly been terrible. He's hardly – I remember one game, I think it was the game against UConn. He played for like 3 minutes or 2 minutes and had 3 fouls. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. But if that were to happen – and I think, like I said, I think it can, because Duke is banged up. And look, sometimes that is what decides these games, the fact that they're banged up. Now, I don't think they would make it past the Final Four. I would be really, really stunned if they were to win a game in the Final Four.
Yeah, no, I have St. John's and Houston in the Final Four. And the reason why I think Houston makes a deep run this year too is Kelvin Sampson's experience, and that school brought back a lot of the same kids that they had last year, and they got really close to winning it last year. And the fact they bring back a lot of those same kids, which I think is a very big deal. We usually don't see this, especially in college basketball. We don't see that a lot between now the transfer portal, NIL, and the fact that they can go to the NBA or even the G League so early and so young. You don't usually see a lot of the same same kids come back. So that's why my national championship is Arizona and Houston. But that all being said, as I said, I think Arizona is the most stable of the 4 number 1 seeds. I think that's the difference. Even though Houston may have the experience, I do like Arizona to win the national championship there in Indy on April the 6th.
Yeah. All right. Interesting.
But I do say real quick, you were talking about St. John's. I am nervous a little bit about them playing Kansas, but if they get past them, I think they can get past Duke. Absolutely. I think they can. That's why I have them going.
Look, it depends on the type of game Kansas plays. Like I said before, they're very up and down. A lot of it depends on Darren Peterson. Now, St. John's is very good defensively. I think they can probably handle Kansas, but you just never know, because that's just what kind of scares me. And the reason I say they got screwed as a 4 seed is because 5 seed is because now they have a second round game against Kansas, in all likelihood, unless they get upset. But in all, like that is the biggest reason that they got screwed. That they were put in the toughest division and have to play against Kansas in the second round as a 5 seed. They earned much more than that.
We'll see. But you know what, though? Thursday comes along at noon. I can't wait to kick back. I'll have multiple TVs on. And
one of the greatest days in sports. It really is.
The first 2 days are the best. I usually take this week off for work. I decided not to this year. I'm already off on Thursday. And I'm like, so you know what? I'll get all my stuff done in the morning, and then I will kick back from about noon to midnight, and then I do it, and then and the real madness for me is Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend. But it is the best, and I hope that they don't expand this tournament. I know there's talk about them going to 76. Keep it the way it is. I think I think eventually we'll go to 76 because money's going to play a factor and they can't help themselves. But enjoy it because it is the best structured tournament in all of sports, not just college or pro, in all of sports.
Yeah, like right now, well, the way I see it is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Everybody loves the tournament. It's overwhelmingly popular. And it's one of those things where very few people actually have any complaints about it. And sports fans love complaining, and they just can't find anything.
It's a great point.
So if you have anything that's super popular with sports fans, just keep it as it is. Like, do we really need a 7-11 Auburn team? Do we need more mid-major teams in it? Like, No, we don't. We don't need more teams that are just not worthy of a tournament spot in the tournament. It's just more is not always better.
Yeah.
More is not always better. And like sometimes you just 68 is probably enough. You were talking about Miami, Ohio before. I think Miami, Ohio is a good example of like the difference between football and basketball. Like I'm okay with automatic qualifiers in basketball because you can't logically pick the 68 best teams from rankings the way you can in football, whereas I can give you my top 12 teams. I couldn't give you my top 68 teams. Like there's just too many. And also there's a lot more parity in basketball to the point where, look, it's at least logical to conclude that Miami of Ohio is a top 68 team. It's logical. Whereas in football, it's completely different. Like, it's not logical to say James Madison or Tulane were actually top 12 teams or anything close to that. Like, nobody believes that, even though a lot of people celebrated them being in the playoff. So, like, that is just a perfect example of how you can't, like, apply basketball logic to football and vice versa. Like, at least Miami of Ohio is probably a top 68 team. You can at least sort of conclude that, and you're not crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
they could be 68 best team, and you know what? That still gets them in. That is what counts. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Can we talk about Bam dropping 83? Of course, this happened right after we recorded.
Well, this was amazing because I think this happened. What I think it was last Friday. This happened, but nevertheless, it was late last week. Okay, but yeah, so I'm home doing some stuff, and it comes across my feed that Bam's up to like 60, 61, which is kind of significant. And then it's like, well, you know, we've had players score 60 in a game, and the way that the NBA is shaped now, I mean, it makes it more favorable for somebody to score 60. But then it's like, then he gets to 70, and I'm like, okay, now this is getting serious. Then I'm looking at, all right, how much time is when he's dropping 70? How much time is there left? Then it's to 77, and I'm like, all right, I need to stop what I'm doing, and I need to get to my nearest TV or device and maybe put like NBA TV or something on or whatever and see if I can watch this. This was incredible because, you know, when you think of it, it's not, you know, Bam Adebayo is a solid player. Is he a superstar? I mean, he's not like, I mean, if you know him in Miami, obviously, but would you know him unless you were a true diehard NBA fan, really? That's how you would really know him. But listen, to get to 83 and to put yourself in the likes of Kareem in terms of Wilt Chamberlain and Kobe Bryant is, you know, I don't care how you do it. I mean, it's special. It really is.
Yeah. To me, I think that the reaction to it was honestly really absurd. Is this just what we do now? Is this what we've become, where like somebody breaks a record and you have to put them down, you have to delegitimize the record? I mean, unless something involves actual cheating, like, no, it's fully legitimate, which obviously he didn't do. There's no evidence whatsoever that Bam Adebayo cheated or whatever. Here's how I view Bam Adebayo putting up 83 is a little bit like when somebody loses a lot of weight using Ozempic. Like, they lost the weight, but people are like, you didn't do it the right way. What is so crazy about this is that, do we as sports fans just, for everybody who's like saying that they didn't play quote unquote ethical basketball, which whatever that means, like during a regular season game against the Wizards, the worst team in the league, probably, when you're already up, like the game was over. The Wizards had no shot at coming back. So the number one goal for Miami was to get, for the players and for Spoelstra, was to get Bam Adebayo the record, which, yeah, why wouldn't you? Don't you think it would have been a lot weirder if they had just pulled him in the third quarter when he had 62 points? That would have been a lot stranger to me.
We'd be on the show this week talking about something totally different.
Yeah.
We were talking about complaining and stuff.
Yeah. Like, it's completely ridiculous. And is there any group of people more miserable than chronically online Kobe fans. I don't mean chronically online Laker fans, chronically online Kobe fans, because what a lot of this comes down to is that they're mad that they broke Kobe's record, even though he never held the record. Wilt holds the record, but some of them think that but some people, especially in our generation, think Wilt didn't actually score 100 points because the games weren't recorded, the games weren't filmed. But games in 1962 were not all filmed. The world was a different place. It's not like today where every little interaction is filmed. So anyway, Kobe did not hold the record. So I don't even know why people are so mad about that. They're mad he surpassed Kobe, but Kobe didn't even hold the record. The other thing is that they're like, he forced it. It's like, yeah, of course they forced it. You can't put up that many points without a concerted effort to put up that many points. There's a reason it only happens in regular season games against lousy teams. All right, Wilt did it against the lousy Knicks. Kobe did it against the Raptors. None of those teams Bam did it against the Wizards. All those teams sucked, all of them. And in all cases, the teams were trying to get their teammate more possessions so they can score. For everybody who's mad about Bam Adebayo and they forced the record, it was the same thing that the Lakers did with Kobe. It was the same exact thing. If you look at the play-by-play in the fourth quarter, hardly anybody else on the Lakers even touched the ball or took a shot other than Kobe, because they were just getting Kobe the ball so he can put up 81. Now, I understand the score was a little closer for most of the game in that in that game, but even when it wasn't close, but by the time the game was over in the fourth quarter, at some point, like in the final 4.5 minutes, I think Kobe put up 11 points. The game was already over. They were up by 15 at that point. I mean, yeah, they forced it. The same exact thing that the Lakers did. So I don't understand and the same exact thing that the Philadelphia Warriors did with Wilt. They were fouling on purpose to get Wilt more possessions so he can score 100 points. Don't you think it would have been a lot more depressing if his teammates just didn't care about getting him the record? Like that would have been so much stranger to me.
No, totally. You're 100% right, and I think it's just that's unfortunately the society that we live in right now, is that we have to try and like bemoan and complain and take down somebody when they're putting up a historic performance. And actually, Bam's was historic because it was a model of consistency. He scored 43 in the first and 40 in the second, and he's the first player. He was the first player in an NBA's play-by-play era to have 40 points in both halves of a game. I know Chamberlain had 41 in the first half of his 100-point game, but I mean, they were talking about in this day and age, which is totally different than what Wilt was playing in. But I mean, it's still impressive. And look, you know what? I mean, you feed him the ball, and if they were fouling and he was going to the free throw line, I mean, that's part of the game. Sometimes the name of the game is getting to the line.
Yeah, and by the way, Bam Adebayo, well, exactly. Like, I don't understand why people are delegitimizing it because a lot of it was foul shots. He's not forcing the Wizards to foul him. It's their fault for fouling him.
Yeah, and and the way he was playing, I mean, maybe he was just playing well enough that he was able to draw fouls.
And also foul shots are a part of the game. It would be like if an NFL team broke a record for most points scored ever in a game, and you said it's not legitimate because too many of it came from field goals. Like, field goals are a part of the game. Like, what's the difference? Like that doesn't even make sense.
Look, it's very, very special. I mean, again, this has only happened 3 times in the history of the NBA. And I mean, it's really from a guy in Bam that I mean, I don't think you would think about him. I mean, if I gave you 50 players in the NBA that I would tell you, if you had to guess or like go out there and say, or maybe put a bet, let's say, and put a bet on who would be the next 80-point scorer in the NBA.
Nobody would have said Bam Adebayo.
No, I mean, you would have gotten unbelievable odds if you were to do that, but it is just
sounds like a Kalshi bet.
I thought of you as I said that because I was like, oh, I think you're going to go to Kalshi for this.
My first guess would have been SGA, but he doesn't always. But he's much more like, I don't know. It doesn't really sound that characteristic of him to take a whole lot of shots. The other player actually
consistency, by the way.
Yeah, but the other player actually I would think of would be Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think like off the top of my head, which player in the NBA would I think score 83? I mean, the thing is you have to think about too is like the teams itself. Like I you know, obviously I'm a huge Knicks fan. I don't think Jalen Brunson could ever do 83 on the I could ever draw 83 on the Knicks. The only guy, honestly, and maybe I'm just rushing to judgment as I do it on the show here today. The only guy I could think of in the NBA to score that could put up 83 could be Giannis.
Yeah, Giannis would be one of my first guesses. I mean, I don't think look, Bam Adebayo took 83, and by the way, for everybody talking about how he took so many shots, Kobe took 46 shots in his 81-point game. So just efficiency standpoint, and like I understand Kobe at the time was a high volume shooter, but he averaged 27 shots per game that season, not 46. Like that's obviously a really huge difference. Either way, I would say, yeah, Giannis would be one of my first choices. I think if you give Jalen Brunson 43 shots, I don't think he's putting up 83. Maybe the 60s, maybe he could do that. I don't think Brunson could have done it.
The only other guy I could say this but I think his better days are behind him. I could have said maybe would have been Steph Curry because he takes so many, because his shot, his range is incredible. But the problem is with that would be if you look at the back in the day, those Warrior teams were so deep with Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and stuff that he wouldn't have to put up 83 unless those two guys were like injured or something. And those teams were so deep that would probably stop him from getting 83. But I mean, he could be taking shots from 30, 40 feet away and making them like it's nothing. So that's why it could be him, but that would have to be on a night that maybe you have like a load management or an injury situation with a Draymond or a Klay Thompson.
Yeah.
That would be it.
Yeah, like, and now I don't even know if he could still do it. But, it's funny because, like, now a lot of the NBA's best stars are in their late 30s, and they're still, in LeBron's case, in his 40s, and they're still some of the best players in the league. I mean, LeBron's taken a step back. He's probably one of the 15 best players in the NBA, which for somebody his age is just historic. Like, I know LeBron haters love to, like, point out any sort of flaw that he has to knock him. But then when you take into account any context, it's like, oh, that's actually pretty good for somebody in his 40s. They're like, oh, LeBron can't defend anymore. It's like, yeah, nobody in their 40s has ever been able to defend.
And think about all the playoff games that he's played in his career to LeBron. He's basically played the equivalent of like three plus extra seasons with all the playoff games that he's played in his career. So there won't be somebody like him in the league for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think look, I'm a believer that LeBron's the GOAT. But I think but that's a totally different discussion. I think that there's arguments for both sides, but the biggest reason that I think LeBron's the GOAT, honestly, is just the longevity. Like playing at a high level for longer, I mean, I think is a huge deal. Like if you look at Kobe, for instance, he was a great player, but it didn't last long. Like by the time he was 36, 37, injuries had caught up to him. He was already breaking down. He wasn't really the player that he was. LeBron was a great player and one of the 5 best players in the league, at least for 15 years, at least, maybe even longer. Like to me, I think longevity matters a lot, and that's what LeBron has over all the other all-time greats.
Yeah, actually, if you look at Kobe in his last 5 years, there was only 1 year where he played over 70 games.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
the minutes per game went down significantly, especially in his last 3 years. Just looking points wise, his last full season, which was back in 2015, 2016, he averaged 17.6 a game.
Yeah,
and if I'm looking at LeBron just for a second here, let me pull this up. I mean, this is not to knock Kobe or anything, but we're just trying to compare these two.
Yeah.
LeBron, let's put it right now. Right now, so far this season, is averaging 21.3 a game.
Yeah.
And he's never had a year under he's never had a season below 20 points per game averaged. I mean, his lowest point total per season average was his rookie year, and he still played 79 games and had just under 21 a game. So
and if he was a little bit younger, maybe like 10 years younger, he would have had to be in college that year.
True. I mean, think about it. LeBron's played the regular season. He's played, as if we do the show, 1,608 career games. And I'm just trying to look at and that's regular season. Like, I haven't even gotten into postseason. I mean, so 1,608 regular season games and 292 playoff games.
Wow. Yeah,
that is almost unheard of. You can almost see a bench role player, maybe play that many games, but I mean, I can't even imagine, especially in this day and age, somebody being able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 1,900 career games, and that's, again, regular season, postseason. We're not talking preseason or, any of the Olympic stuff. I mean, he's talking 2,000 plus games in his career.
Yeah, and you have guys like Embiid who won't play back-to-back games.
Look, Joel Embiid, think about this. You want to talk about a funny stat this week? Joel Embiid now, since he's been in the NBA, has missed more games than he's played.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So.
Yeah. All right. Let me talk about this Kyler Murray to the Vikings.
You called it.
Yeah, I did call it. And it makes perfect sense to me. Just like Tua to the Falcons, both of these make perfect sense. I think the only downside is that that's a tough division. And he has to go to Chicago and he has to play in Chicago and Green Bay once a year. All right, maybe that's the downside, but I think this move makes perfect sense. Kevin O'Connell is known for saving quarterbacks. And I think you can do the same thing with Kyler Murray now that Kyler Murray's in a better system. You have to keep in mind, the Vikings went 8-9 last year. Or did they go 9-8?
9-8.
9-8. So they had a winning record. I don't know how that happened because it felt like they were much worse. But they went 9-8 last year. So let's just say an average team with maybe the worst starting quarterback in the league. Like maybe 31st or 32nd ranked starting quarterback. Now you have somebody who is fairly, and like I said last year was they were in the toughest division too. Now you have a quarterback who we don't really know what to think of him yet, but is at least competent. So the way I see it is that this is a huge plus for the Vikings, and it's a huge win for Kyler Murray that now he is going to play under Kevin O'Connell's system. I mean, that's where Sam Darnold's career was totally revived. Doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same thing with Kyler Murray, but look, there's some limitations like his size that can hurt him. But I think the other thing is that I think just like with Tua, I think he needs a change of scenery. And I think he needs better coaching. And I think that the Vikings will provide that to him.
Well, here's something to think about, too, if you're Kyler Murray. He's only going to be 29 when the season starts next year. And he's playing on a 1-year deal. He goes out there and he performs, he can get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, he's only going to be at the end of the day, he's still going to be 29 and entering free agency with a bunch of teams that, if you look at the end of next season, will be going for will be needing a quarterback in the worst way. Yeah. I mean, Kyler can play himself into getting a big-time contract because he could also go sign with one of those crappy teams that would go draft the number 1 overall QB or a top QB in the draft next year and start, and that QB and that rookie QB can learn behind him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the upside here is so big for Kyler that, I mean, Mike Tannenbaum, your former buddy, said earlier late last week that it could be the most significant signing in the last 5 years in the NFL. He's not wrong in that because it could be something where, Kyler goes, gets a big time contract.
Yeah.
And, he has still a chance to compete in that division. I mean, a division that right now the Lions are losing players and are going through another change with their coordinators. You have the Bears, who, let's be fair, the Bears have actually lost quite a few players this offseason. Now, I'm not saying that I'm just trying to give the positives and the possibility for the Vikings to rebound here, because the Bears lost quite a few players. The Packers are a true wild card to me because the Packers are still one of the youngest teams in the league, who have also lost some players. So I definitely think that this definitely has a lot of upside for Kyler and for the Vikings. And like you said, Kevin O'Connell, look, Sam Darnold revived himself there. Daniel Jones, remember, sat there, didn't play, but he went to the Vikings and he sat there under Kevin O'Connell. So, I mean, the history shows that he has the potential to make this work. And, he's got players on that Vikings team, obviously Justin Jefferson and others. That defense is still very, very good. So, yeah, the signings are all there. And we had narrowed this down last week after all the moves that were made by other teams with QBs. This really looked like the last spot for Kyler to go to, because he wasn't going to the Jets after they made the move for Geno Smith. He wasn't going to wasn't going to go to the Falcons. He wasn't going to go to the Dolphins after they signed, after they made their signing, and that was
Malik Willis.
Yeah, so really, I mean, his options at that point were few and far between.
Yeah, but it also was the best one, like, by far. I mean, I'm sure he'd much rather. I mean, just from a football perspective, it's much better to go to the Vikings than the Dolphins. I mean, the only upside is that you get to live in Miami instead of Minnesota. But from a football perspective, yeah. And if you think about it, the Dolphins might actually end up with a lot of buyer's remorse, giving Malik Willis $45 million when they could have tried to go out and get Kyler Murray.
Yeah, how do you give him? And I said this last week. How do you give him $45 million guaranteed after you're taking a $99 million dead cap hit with Tua?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have gone out there and gotten a transitional quarterback and not given him $45 million guaranteed.
Yeah. Yeah. And Kyler Murray, like we said, the Vikings, I remember I saw a tweet one time that said the Vikings should cut J.J. McCarthy and then bring him back so Kevin O'Connell can save him.
Oh my goodness, that's an interesting way of looking at it too.
But yeah, I think it's a great move. And if you look at the biggest loser of all of this, I think it's the Lions. I mean, the Lions have a lot of pressure to bounce back after their tough season last year with their new coordinators. And I thought people were kind of overplaying how important it was. It actually was a huge deal. It made a huge difference in the season. And yeah, the Lions, I mean, look, the Lions could be in last place next year. I mean, if they have a season similar to what they had last year, I mean, that division can end up being a gauntlet. If the Vikings can have a winning record last year with J.J. McCarthy, the Vikings are a potential playoff team. I really do. I really think they're a potential playoff team. Now, the NFC is very competitive. Injuries are going to have a lot to do with it. If the Niners get caught with an injury bug or like they always do for some reason, that would help the Vikings a lot. But I think, look, that whole division just is up for grabs.
Yeah, it's a good thing it's only mid-March, because that is actually a very tough division to grasp right now. One other thing real quick before we move on here. This is a situation, and I remember this, the only other team I can remember in recent memory that this happened to was the Niners. When you swing and miss as much as the Vikings did with J.J. McCarthy, remember, they traded up with the Jets to get him. Yeah. When you usually go all in like that and it doesn't work, it usually sets your franchise back years.
Yeah.
This happened, and the only team I can remember in recent memory where they swung and missed at a quarterback was the Niners when they traded up to get Trey Lance. And remember, they traded, what was it, like 2 or 3 first-round picks, and those picks that the Dolphins got ended up being very solid players. And they swung and missed so hard that would have set franchises back 10, 15 years. And yet the Niners recovered from that because they got Brock Purdy, who Mr. Irrelevant became very relevant. This is a spot here where the Vikings could actually, instead of taking their franchise back 10 years, can be back into it could be back into possible playoff contention next season.
Yeah, I think it's a great move. I think it's great for both sides.
Yeah.
I really think
Kyler's got a chip on his shoulder, and he knows he's only playing on a 1-year minimum contract right now. So he knows
there's basically no downside for the Vikings right now. There's no downside. It's just 1 year, and he's heavily incentivized to really give it his all.
And if they go 3-13, and if they go 3-14 next year, well, you know what? Then they draft one of the big QBs next year.
And by the way, it wouldn't. Do you think that maybe? I mean, they have a different GM now, but do you think maybe like there might be a similar like Sam Darnold situation where like Kyler Murray has a really good year, but the Vikings say nope, not good enough, and then he ends up going somewhere else. Like I could see and gets paid by a different team. I could kind of see that happening too. Although they don't have the same GM, so I don't know if that makes a difference, but.
Well, again, because there's so many teams next year, there's going to be so many quarterbacks coming out in the draft next year, and there's going to be a bunch of teams looking for one. I could see somebody spending big money and getting him in to basically be that guy for a couple of years and having one of these QBs learn behind him. So, yeah.
All right. So can we talk about the World Baseball Classic? By the way, the United States beat the Dominican Republic on what was – I mean, I don't know what was going on with the umps. Look, I'm rooting for the USA. I'm American, but
yeah,
I mean, I want to be fair too. If I was a Dominican fan, or or if this happened to Team USA, I'd be pretty livid about it. So I want to be fair. That ball was in the dirt almost. I mean, that ball was nowhere close to a strike. I don't know what this umpire. Now, in fairness, this umpire was bad the whole game. But like, what in the world? Why in the World Baseball Classic do we have such terrible umpiring?
Well, you know why? Because it's the one good thing the World Baseball Classic does. They don't use ABS.
Oh, okay.
That's the one good thing the World Baseball Classic does, and that's the one positive I'll give it, and that's what I will end with in terms of positivity.
No, look, here's what. So Kiké Hernández, Bryce Harper, and Aaron Judge all said that they would take winning the World Baseball Classic over a World Series.
Well, yeah. So I picked these three names to talk about, and there's been a lot of different discussions with MLB players who are playing in this thing and their thoughts about this as a whole. So Kiké Hernández said here, and let me pull it up here. So he says that the World Baseball Classic means more to him than the World Series. Now, this is a guy who's been in multiple World Series too, by the way. So, okay. There's that, and I'll get to all this in a second. Bryce Harper, though, took a different angle in this because when I think of the World Baseball Classic, and this is one of the many debates I've had with people on Twitter at Montalbano NY with this week, because we've seen what the Olympics are like in the Winter Olympics with NHL players. MLB players should be playing in the Summer Olympics in 2028. First of all, baseball should be a Summer Olympic sport. The fact that it's not is an outrage. And if there's talk that they will play in the Summer Olympics in 2028, that's where these guys should be playing. Because you know what? That does mean something. I don't want to hear this talk about players that want to be playing for pride. That's great. We understand that. But what's the reward for winning the World Baseball Classic? There's no gold medal. It's money. That's the prize for winning the World Baseball Classic is money. And I'm hearing Mark DeRosa, who I'll tell you right now, if he's auditioned to become a manager, he is failing big time in terms of that regard. He wants to bring in like the U.S. hockey sweater from the U.S. winning the gold medal in the Winter Olympics. Okay, so you're going to display something about, you're going to show a team that won gold at the Olympics and try and compare that to motivate you to win the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
You see these other countries jumping for joy, and we're showing that. We're having Rob O'Neill, the Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden, come in and give these guys a pep talk for an enhanced exhibition tournament. I mean, are you guys kidding me here?
Yeah.
So Bryce Harper talks about the fact that the World Baseball Classic's been great, but it's not the Olympics. It's no disrespect to the WBC or anything, but everybody knows that when the Olympics are on, everybody's watching, and I'm hoping LA 28 happens. He's right.
I mean, he's 100% right. People are like,
totally right. First of all, I mean, think about this. The timing of it, too. You put the Summer Olympics on, you don't have any other competition like now when you have basketball, you have the NCAA tournament, you have these conference tournaments and the NCAA tournament happening. You have hockey going on. You have NFL free agency, which I'll tell you right now, go watch ESPN. 95% of their coverage is not World Baseball Classic related. Actually, 99% of it is not World Baseball Classic related. I go put on Get Up and First Take in the morning. They're spending maybe 2 to 3 minutes a show talking about the World Baseball Classic, and 97%, the other 97% is for NFL free agency. And then this is the one that really, and then there's this, yeah, and then there's Aaron Judge. It's been talking about these two. It's been bigger. The World Series, it's been bigger. The World Series I was in, the crowd here, the crowds we had playing Mexico, it's bigger and better than the World Series. The passion these fans have, there's nothing like it. Okay, I'm sure Yankee fans are loving to hear that when he boots a ball in center field in the World Series when they're up 5-0, a routine fly ball, and he boots that.
Yeah.
Guys, the World Baseball Classic is not the Olympics. All right, let's just be fair. It is an enhanced exhibition. And look, these players playing for their country, they're having the passion. I get that. Look, the passion by some of the fans, that's great. The other thing, too, is, and let's be honest, baseball is a more popular sport internationally than it is in the U.S.
Well, it depends on countries. Like, it's more popular in the Dominican Republic and Cuba and Puerto Rico, definitely.
In Japan.
Maybe
it's
Japan.
Popular everywhere. It's popular everywhere else. Baseball's popularity here is been in decline. They want to, and then the other thing too, I see from people like Ben Verlander and the MLB PR and the Fox Sports PR and stuff is about the ratings. Guys, the numbers they were drawing 3 million a game. So the World Series drew 3 times that. You have football that draws 10 times that on a bad day. They draw so stop. All right, this is an enhanced exhibition tournament that's played at a terrible time, and the fact that and you know what? If the players are saying this, like Kiké and Aaron Judge, the captain of the Yankees, are saying this, then let me ask you a very simple question. Why the hell are we having an MLB season then? Why even play Major League Baseball if you think the World Baseball Classic means more to you than the World Series? Then why play Major League Baseball?
I think it's very much an in-the-moment thing. It's a similar thing that I think some players on the Puerto Rican team, maybe Edwin Diaz, I could be wrong, said this a few years ago when they were playing for Team Puerto Rico. And it's like, I really hope, here's what I'll say. I really, really hope you don't actually think that, and it's just an in-the-moment thing. Because that's the team that's actually paying you millions of dollars. That should be, winning a World Series should be your number one priority. And the World Baseball Classic, it's not even like winning a gold medal in the Olympics. It's just an exhibition tournament. That's really all it is. And I love the passion from all the Dominican players that make it a bit more entertaining. But, like, look, if Aaron Judge, if Juan Soto said what Aaron Judge said, or if a player I feel like because Aaron Judge is American, he's getting a little bit of a pass. But if a player who wasn't American was saying that, I think they'd be criticized a lot more if he wasn't American. And yeah, winning a World Series should be your number one priority, just like in every other sport it is.
A comment in one of my posts said, well, it's one's a country, one's a club. Yeah, the club's the one that's paying these guys, not the country.
Exactly. And not only that, I mean, come on, representing your country in the World Baseball Classic, guess what a lot of the other teams are made up of? That are quote unquote other countries. Oh, that's right. American players, the Italian team, the Israeli team, all American players, even Great Britain. It's all American and Bahamian players. It's like, are you really represent, like if the United States plays Israel or Italy, is it really the USA versus another country, or is it just Americans versus other Americans? Because that's really all it is.
You know what? I forgot to say this then when I put out my post. This is not just an enhanced exhibition tournament. This is an inauthentic enhanced exhibition tournament because you know what? It's not real. I'm sorry. You cannot tell me this is a real tournament then if you have teams that are actually picking and choosing what countries they want to play for.
Yeah, it's not because, you know, like I said, if you have an Italian team made up of all Italian Americans, just Americans with Italian last names, that's not an Italian team. That's an American team. Same thing with the Israeli team. If you just have Jewish American players on the team, it's not an Israeli team. It's an American team. That's really all it is. And Great Britain, so because the Bahamas was a colony of England in 1973, that means that they can play on Team Great Britain. I mean, like that makes no sense at all. No sense.
Again, I'm not trying to be anti-American or anti-anything.
It's not anti-America.
But to say that this means more than a World Series when you're being paid by the team that you won the World Series on is wrong. I'm sorry. It is. And you know what, though? I will say this, maybe to their credit, though, in saying this, and I'll end the show by saying this. Maybe the World Baseball Classic does mean more than the World Series because in 2027 and possibly later and more, you won't be having a World Series because the baseball will be on lockdown.
Yeah. So
and all the popularity that baseball is supposedly getting because of this enhanced exhibition tournament will be right out the window.
Yeah. So on that note, that's our show this week. We'll be back next week for back to our normal day. Thursday we'll be coming out for another edition of Moving the Goalpost. See you guys then.
See you next week.